The Force Gurkha has always been known as a very capable off-road machine, and it has its own following. Of course, it's not a vehicle for the masses, but yes, in a niche segment, people love the Gurkha. But the problem with the Gurkha was that while it was very capable off-road, getting to that off-road spot meant you have to drive it on road. And that is an area where the Gurkha wasn't particularly good. So Force Motors took into account all of those feedback and tried to make the Gurkha more comfortable, and here we are with the all new Gurkha. But the biggest change is the addition of this, the 5-door version. So the new Gurkha can seat up to 7 people, give you more comfort, more space, but at the same time they promise it hasn't lost any of its off-road capability. So let's find out if Force Motor is true in their claim or not. Now, the Force Gurkha has popularly been known in India as the Indian G-Wagon. And yeah, I mean, there is a lot of similarity, but this one, the 5-door one, truly looks very close to a G-Wagon, and that's because of the bulk that it's got. It's longer, it's taller, and because of that, it looks a bit closer to the G-Wagon. Also, these turn indicators, they're very similar to the G-Wagon. But yeah, I mean, coming to the changes in the design in this new one, it gets LED DRLs and an LED headlamp. So yeah, some modern tech making its way into Gurkha. Again, you can look at the front. It's very muscular, boxy, old school, exactly how you would want a hardcore SUV to look like. Again, the ground clearance on this has been increased by about 20 millimeters from the older version. So it's taller and has a much more butch appearance. Also, when you move towards the side, again, like I said earlier, this one's longer, the wheelbase is longer to accommodate the extra doors. Even at the back now, you've got a ladder because this is the accessorized version. So the accessories that you see here on the windshield, even the top, the roof carrier, the ladder at the back, all of these are official accessories and homologated. So you can get these without being fined by the police, because beyond that, if it's not homologated, any kind of modification is illegal. But if you look at this overall, you know, with this snorkel, the intent of the Gurkha to be a hardcore off-road SUV is very clear. And for people who love this kind of a look, I think the Gurkha has aced it in terms of the design department. Alright, now let's talk about the cabin of the new Gurkha. And once you step inside the cabin, you instantly realize there is a fair bit of newness inside the cabin. Of course, it also looks more modern than the outgoing model. And when you see there's this touchscreen finally in a Gurkha, it isn't like completely or a seamless integration within the dashboard. It looks as if it, you know, an aftermarket fitment, which it is. But the unit is decent, I would say. It's not great. The touch response is decent. The reaction time is a bit slow. The features, again, you know, the user interface is sort of average. It's not a very fluid interface, so it will take time for you to get used to it. So those are some issues with it. But imagine from a Gurkha which had no touchscreen, had almost no convenience features, you now have it. So that's a step up. Also, there's this very good looking instrument cluster here. Again, gives you a wide range of information, clear readouts, looks good. And yeah, I mean, it lends a lot of good usability for the driver, which is really a good addition in the new model. Then again, if you move towards the lower part of the center console, you'll also realize that instead of having the manual lever for getting into 4 low, you now have an electric switch here. So you can actually shift from 2 high to 4 high on the fly. Of course, to get it into 4 low, you'll need to get it to a standstill, plonk it into neutral and then shift to 4 low. It takes a few seconds, and once it shows on the display that 4 low is engaged, you're ready to take on almost any kind of an off-road obstacle that might come your way. But let's talk about the on-road performance first and the cabin. So like I said, these are the new features. Beyond that, of course, some change in terms of plastic and all. Even if you look at the biggest change, which I talked about earlier, the 5-door model. So you have the bench seat in the middle, and quite surprisingly, the rear third row is not a bench. You've got 2 captain seats at the back, which makes the third row, according to me, better in terms of comfort than the middle row. So usually in a 3-row SUV, people are fighting over who's gonna go in the last row. No one wants to be that person, but in this, trust me, people will be more than happy to go in the third row, not so much in the second, because leg room, especially knee room, is just about okay. So if you have a sort of taller driver, and after that having someone sitting behind in the middle row is a bit of a bother, because there's hardly any leg room. So that is a limitation in terms of comfort. But like I said, the third row is very nice, and you've got these individual seats, because of which the eternal problem of third rows, the lack of under thigh support, that has been solved in the Gurkha. So that's a very good thing. And beyond that, if I talk about the overall cabin quality, it does not come across as a premium cabin, not at all. There is a lot that remains to be improved inside the cabin. The steering wheel, for example, the plastic on the steering wheel, the moment you lay eyes on it, you feel that this could have been better. Similarly, the plastic used in the dashboard, in the door panels, the plastic quality needs a major upgrade. But keep in mind that the Gurkha is not a vehicle aimed at the masses. It is not a vehicle you're going to use every day to go to the office, to drop your kids to the school, to get your groceries. No, the Gurkha is not meant for that. So this is a compromise that most Gurkha customers are willing to agree for. And yeah, like I said earlier, off-road, great. But to get to an off-road spot, you need to drive on the road, something that the Gurkha was never good at. Now, it's a lot more comfortable in those bits. And coming to the performance of the Gurkha, well, the first major upgrade is in terms of powertrain. The engine remains the same, the 2.6 litre diesel engine, which is a Mercedes source unit, and power, however, has been uprated. So from the 90 PS that you were getting in the old Gurkha, the new Gurkha has a power output of 140 PS, 320 Newton meters of torque, just a manual transmission. And doesn't matter whether you go in for the 3-door or the 5-door, this is the powertrain option that you get. And this is all mated to a 5-speed manual gearbox, which of course is sending power to all 4 wheels. And in terms of road performance, well, the additional power really was needed, because the 5-door Gurkha is heavy, and it is seriously heavy. The gross weight of this vehicle, the 5-door version, is a little over 3.1 tons. So it is a massively heavy vehicle, and 140 PS of power, well, it sounds good on paper, but actually on road, it's just about enough to get this thing moving. It's not a quick car by any means. I'm sure, it's not supposed to be. The buyers don't expect it to be, but it takes time to boil, to get to the right RPM. It's slow progress, and once you get there, it maxes out at about 3,500 RPM. So you have to work the gearbox a lot if you're planning to go fast. So, and the gearbox, by the way, the throws are long, the movement is not slick, so it requires a lot of effort. Now, like, I'm stuck in a bit of traffic right now, and yeah, it's not easy. It's a hydraulic steering, it's a bit of a heavy steering, and then when you have to make these frequent gear shifts, a lot of workout for your left arm. And so yeah, It's not an easy vehicle to drive. It's not a fast vehicle to drive. It's not a very comfortable vehicle to drive. Yeah, it's comfortable than the earlier Gurkha, but if you compare it to anything else in the similar price segment, no, it's not a comfortable vehicle by any means. So when you add this, lack of good performance, I would say, on road, when you look at features still not being at par with many other vehicles in the segment, the plastic quality, material quality is still not being spot on. When you add all of this, you feel that, well, is it really worth buying the Force Gurkha or not? Should you give it a miss? Well, the fact of the matter is that the Force Gurkha was never meant to perform great in all of the departments that we spoke about. Yes, it has improved in all those areas, and I think prospective owners should be happy with that upgrade. But the real reason why you would buy the Force Gurkha is to go hardcore off-roading, because this is what the Force Gurkha was built to do. Now, a lot of people would assume that with the 5-door version coming in, this is longer, heavier. This probably isn't that off-road worthy as the older Gurkha or maybe the 3-door one. But you couldn't be more wrong, because, well, this is equally capable. Well, one of the reasons why it is because the ground clearance has been increased by 20 millimeters. So this now has a ground clearance of 233 millimeters, which means you can go over most obstacles. Also, the longer wheelbase reduces the ramp breakover angle, but then again, the increase in ground clearance compensates for that. The approach angle, departure angle continues to be high. You've got the snorkel, because of which you have a water wading depth of 700 millimeters. When you add all of this and the fact that you've got a low range, you also have locking differentials independently for both the front and the rear. And unless you have a terminally idiot driving this vehicle in off-road, there is no way you can get stuck in a Force Gurkha. In an off-road situation, the Gurkha shines like anything, and that's where it makes the justification for itself. So at the end of the day, well, it comes down to the pricing. Now, the pricing is something that we don't know, but yes, we will get to know that over the next few days. And if Force is able to give it a competitive pricing, they need to make sure that it does not get into the range of a Thar, because the Mahindra Thar is a lot more civilized and comfortable than this vehicle. And when you're driving this on the road, when you're going around corners, there is a lot of movement, pitch in your movement, there's a lot of body roll. When you're braking again, there's a fair bit of dive. So these are not things you usually expect or accept in vehicles of modern times. You would do it for a Gurkha, because this is made only for hardcore off-road enthusiasts. Like I said, not an everyday vehicle. So yes, for that purpose, the Gurkha makes perfect sense. And as long as it's priced comparatively, I think it'll do well. They sold about 2,000 Gurkhas with the old model. And with the addition of the 5-door, they're hoping to double the sales. So they'll probably take it to 3,500 to 4,000, which is a good growth for a company like Force Motors, which plays in a limited volume segment within the passenger space. And yes, so that's the new Force Gurkha for you. Off-road capabilities maintained, comfort and design and features, all of these departments have improved, but it continues to be a niche of a vehicle, and only if you love the Gurkha, you will end up buying it. If you like this video, please hit that subscribe button, press that little bell icon so that our future videos can reach you in time, and do share it as well.